Good evening, dear televiewers, and welcome to another edition of Kume News on Radio Television Voice of the Cross. As usual, we'll begin this newscast with the headlines. The World University of Prayer and Fasting branch in Yaoundé organizes its first session with 500 participants. Leaders of the Headquarters Church prepare the grounds for Pastor Theodore's visit to the localities of Minta and Koteng. And in Côte d'Ivoire, the church in Daloa organizes its 5th regional convention under the theme Faith Battles for Taking Down Strongholds. Those were our top stories. Stand by for the news in full. One of the goals of the World Conquest Prayer and Fasting Center for Phase 3 is to hold 200 prayer sieges ranging from 24 to 240 hours. Their main objective is to pray for the accomplishment of Brother Zach's vision, for the success of Pastor Theodore's ministry as current leader of CMFI, and for the entire ministry. Last year they covered 40 sieges, but this year they are aiming for 45. It is to this effect that they organized the 16th and 17th prayer sieges on the 20th and the 26th of May, respectively. Details with Edwin Ekwen.
The meeting started at 6 p.m. with proclamations and testimonies, followed by intensive prayer for Brother Theodore's ongoing retreat. They also prayed for his daily protection, his relationship with God, and for his needs of leadership in Phase 3. After this, they covered their second objective of the prayer siege, which was to pray for the healing of some staff members of the World Conquest Prayer and Fasting Center and some other brethren in the ministry. It should be noted that Sister Esther and her team had already carried out a 36-hour fast to this effect. They therefore exhorted the brethren from Isaiah chapter 53 verses 4 and 5 and from Psalms 103 verse 1 to 4. She said the first aspect about protection is that it is spiritual, and the walk with God is also crucial and determinant. Sister Marimbok also talked about the need for each one to return to God by working on his heart. They all agreed to do so on the spot. Individually, they examined their hearts, uprooted and repented of all sins and idols therein. They were also encouraged to continue this exercise in their respective homes. The siege continued with the brethren praying for God's enabling to accomplish the goal of Phase 3 and for all the leaders of our ministry. Children were also present at the siege. They started their own program with testimonies of conversion, after which 7 of them gave their lives to Christ. They also memorized 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 17 and prayed for Pastor Theodore's retreat. This 17th prayer siege was held on the 26th of May and ran for 24 hours. As usual, they started with praise and thanksgiving, followed by testimonies of God's mighty hand in the lives of the saints. Once again, the brethren prayed for Pastor Theodore's personal retreat, his protection during his missionary trips to Yaoundé, Minta, and Koteng, and for the needs of his leadership in Phase 3. Sister Esther led the brethren to pray for every aspect of the ministries to be rendered in the above-mentioned localities. Beginning from the journeys to the ministry of the word, Brother Theodore's interpreters, right down to his interaction with the different audiences. In the same way, they prayed for the upcoming World University of Prayer and Fasting course for children of 10 to 18 years, as well as Brother Jean-François Edoge's ministry in Guinea and Brother Joseph Ngando's ministry in Bafia, Limbe, Boya, and Bomaka. Before closing the prayer siege, the saints once again prayed that God should bless Pastor Theodore physically, emotionally, spiritually while he's on retreat. At the end, Sister Esther Konang sent forth 2 sisters to Yokaduma to carry out a 30-hour prayer siege and a working session with the brethren there. This she did in response to a request from the leader of the spiritual province of Tekadei. Reporting from Kume for RTVC, Edwin Ekwen.
In obedience to God's command on what to do in the month of May, Pastor Theodore visited the church in Douala from the 15th to the 17th of May 2021. He taught them on accountability and on how to consolidate achievements. Priska Damatop tells us more.
The 15th of May marked the beginning of Brother Theodore's ministry in Douala. He taught the brethren on accountability. Drawing inspiration from the book of the Acts of the Apostles, he brought out the importance of reporting to the leader. He said, "No one can lead a work unless he knows it, and anyone who starts a work without giving an account is under nobody's authority." He then explained that being under authority implies being accountable.
You cannot lead a work that you don't know.
On ne peut pas diriger une œuvre qu'on ne connaît pas.
And anybody who goes and starts a work
Et toute personne qui commence une œuvre
without giving an account
sans rendre compte,
is not under anybody's authority.
il n'est sous l'autorité de personne.
The acknowledgement of leadership
Être sous autorité
involves giving a report.
implique le fait de rendre compte.
If you are working very zealously,
Si tu es en train de travailler avec beaucoup de zèle,
then you give a report about your work to nobody.
mais tu ne rends compte de ton travail à personne,
You're a cancer.
tu es un cancer.
You have started your ministry.
Tu as commencé ton ministère.
To give a better understanding of the message, Brother Theodore quoted the example of the Lord God Almighty, who, out of love for his Son, reports to him so that he can do what the Father does. This is why Jesus Christ could tell his disciples that the Son can do nothing of himself. He only does what he sees the Father doing. And whatever the Father does, the Son also does likewise. For the Father loves the Son and shows him everything he does. He also brought the saints to see that according to Acts 11, 1-4, the apostles too were accountable because they always gave a report to the saints of what God had enabled them to do, and even of all the difficulties they were going through. To this, Brother Theodore said, everyone has real-time information to avoid the devastating effects of gossip. A spiritual leader who thinks that people under his authority have no right to question him is killing his ministry. He emphasized that it is through honest reporting that one can measure the level of advancement of the church during this phase 3 of our work. After this, some departments of the church in Douala were called up to give a report of their activities so far. The following day, the meeting started with praise and thanksgiving to the Lord. Pastor Theodore Andose's teaching was focused on the consolidation of achievements, to give value to what God has already given. He said, the saying that man is eternally dissatisfied should not be spoken of those who are in Christ Jesus, and that failure to value what we already have is a mark of a lazy and ungrateful people, because those who work hard value what they have. Through the book of Proverbs 12:27, Brother Theodore helped participants understand that the psychology behind hard work is valuing what you have. People don't value their children and even their marriage. They always find that other people's children are better than theirs.
A diligent man,
L'homme diligent
prizes his possessions,
prise ses possessions.
values what he has,
Il accorde de la valeur à ce qu'il possède.
and that is what is lacking.
Et c'est ce qui manque.
Very many of us do not value what we possess.
Nombreux d'entre nous ne prisons pas ce que nous possédons.
Starting from our children,
Commençons par nos enfants.
many people do not value their children.
Plusieurs personnes ne prisent pas leurs enfants.
Other people's children are always wonderful.
Les enfants des autres sont toujours merveilleux.
Not to really talk about marriage.
N'en parlons même pas du mariage.
Most men,
La plupart des hommes,
the reason why God commanded men to love their wives
la raison pour laquelle Dieu a commandé aux hommes, la raison pour laquelle Dieu avait ordonné aux hommes d'aimer leurs épouses,
is because men are fundamentally polygamous in their hearts.
c'est parce que les hommes sont fondamentalement polygames dans leur cœur.
If you see a man
Si tu vois un homme
who has only one wife
qui n'a qu'une seule femme
in his heart,
dans son cœur,
that's the grace of God.
c'est la grâce de Dieu.
Say amen.
Dis Amen.
It was to help a man to keep only one woman in his heart that God added his commandment. Why?
Pourquoi?
Because the other woman is always wonderful. Most men do not value their wives.
La plupart des hommes ne prisent pas leur femme.
The other woman is always wonderful.
Notre femme est toujours meilleure.
She serves better.
Elle sait mieux.
And she prays more.
Elle prie plus.
And she's lighter in complexion. Far heels always look green.
Les montagnes éloignées sont toujours verdoyantes.
Because they don't know how to value what they have.
Parce qu'ils ne savent pas accorder de la valeur à ce qu'ils possèdent.
We cannot give up what God has given us and hope to be more blessed by God. Yet, according to Brother Theodore Andose, the church in Douala is very instrumental in achieving our goal. You just have to make good use of the resources it has. A lack of organization leads to the wasting of a lot of resources. According to Ecclesiastes 10 verse 10, we understand that a little wisdom keeps us from putting in a lot of effort. When a church has a purpose to accomplish, she must organize herself for effectiveness. And the main agent in organizing spiritual work is the leader, because God is always looking to the people who are going to bear the responsibilities so that life may be sustained. It is in this context that Pastor Theodore has promised to be in Douala 6 times in the next 12 months. For RTVC, I'm Priska Domatop.
The first course on prayer by the World University of Prayer and Fasting branch in Yaoundé was organized from the 19th to 22nd of May 2021. About 500 people from all the centers of the churches in Yaoundé, Mbamayo, Okola, and some other denominations were present at this course. Albert Tang reports.
A session of the World University of Prayer and Fasting was held in Yaoundé, being the annex of that in the headquarters. One of the coordinators of the session, Sister Celine Bija, gave an outline of the World University of Prayer and Fasting's commencement. It should be noted that the World University of Prayer and Fasting was founded on the 25th of September 1999. The then Chancellor of the said institution, Professor Zacharias Tani Formum, appointed Sister Emily Tendo as Vice-Chancellor of the institution. The purpose of the World University of Prayer and Fasting is to train and raise missionaries for prayer that will carry certain aspects of the work. Sister Celine Bija pointed out the necessity of couples being together in the place of prayer. This can be learned from Luke chapter 1 verses 1 to 56. There is also a need to allow God use your sufferings to bring out something good in you, like did Zacharias, whom we must all emulate. The leaders in the session also learned that they need people to pray for them, like did Brother Zach, who begged the brethren to pray for his safety and success in the Lord's work. Sister Sarah Kunang talked about daily dynamic encounters with God. She called upon the brethren to meditate daily as from 4 a.m. Pastor Jacques Yugang taught on the need for daily dynamic encounters with God. He told the leaders that it is a means through which the Lord speaks to men and directs them on his purposes. He also talked about the need for men, stressing out that a leader needs men. This can be seen in the life of Abraham. Abraham was a leader of 308 men. The participants to the session were grouped in different workshops. Much can be said about the session in Yaoundé. However, the nitty-gritty of it all is the transformation and consequential commitment of the participants. Albert Tang, Kume News.
In response to Sister Harriet Mbaga's letter on behalf of the leader to all the members of the Third World Convention Choir, the sowers of the church in Bafoussam organized a praise festival that lasted 7 days. Cynthia Abia tells us more.
7 continuous days, the sowers of the church in Bafusam, under their leader Sister Beatrice, celebrated the victories of the Lord through singing, dancing, clapping, and with the sound of musical instruments. At the end of this long festival of praise, several participants received miracles of healing and the visitation of the Lord, for as it is written, the Lord inhabits the praises of his people. Also, in the assembly at the Gansos, the participants praised God with unusual musical instruments like the cha-cha, drums, the Chinese bamboo, and the whistle. About 50 people were present per day to praise, worship, and proclaim the victories of the Lord. Reporting for Kume News, I am Cynthia Abia.
A group of leaders from Kume visited the brethren in Koteng to inform them of Pastor Theodore's visit to their locality on Sunday, the 30th of May 2021. The brethren joyfully received this news and danced with all their might. In a way to give more meaning to the National Day of Unity in Cameroon, some 22 youths from the Tigaza Center in Betwa went to the streets and distributed 5,250 tracts. Among the people they preached to 9 of them gave their lives to Christ. And finally, on our international page, the Brethren of the Church in Dalua in Côte d'Ivoire organized their 5th regional convention under the theme Faith Battles to Bring Down Strongholds. This program took place from the 7th to the 9th of May 2021 with the missionary Pastor Boniface Meunier as main speaker. Albert Tang tells us more.
A regional convention was held in Daola, Ivory Coast, from the 7th to the 9th of May 2021. Over 2,000 brethren from the whole nation took part in the convention. The main speaker, Pastor Boniface Meunier, taught the brethren on fighting to overcome strongholds. The saints learned that they must trust in God and be at rest so as to guarantee their victory, like did Joshua of the old in the scriptures. The Lord had told Joshua to be strong and courageous. So does it apply to all those in battle today. The saints were called to abandon sin, for with sin there would be no victory over strongholds. A life of holiness is a sine qua non for victory over the enemy. Throughout the convention, 663 souls were won. Miracles were equally performed, amongst which was the instant healing of a man paralyzed for 7 years and another man delivered from madness. Captives of the enemy were also set free. Albert Tang, Kume News.
That report from Côte d'Ivoire brings us to the end of this newscast. It's been a pleasure being with you on Radio Television Voice of the Cross. We'll be back next week, same time. May God bless you richly till we meet again. Bye-bye.